time to ham up.
Oh, I gotta really try hard.
Shut it down!
Somehow it's the best.
After the credits.
A YumChunks podcast.
YumChunks!
Darling, it's better down where it's wetter. Take it from me. In this episode of After the Credits, a YumChunks podcast, episode 119, we're going to talk about the new live-action Disney's Little Mermaid. And with me to talk about this live-action extravaganza is Matt Shuey.
Hello, yes, hi, hello.
Also is Sean Davis is here, I think.
We got a hot crustacean band.
We sure do. And no one is going to fry us and eat us.
In fricassee.
In fricassee. I don't know what fricassee is, but doesn't...
Fricassee?
It's
It's a way you cook meat.
It's a way of like heating something and cooking it.
All right, let's see. Okay, it's a stew made with pieces of meat that have been browned in butter and then served in a sauce flavored with the cooking stock. It's usually made with chicken, veal, or rabbit. Rabbit?
Oh, well, that doesn't involve seafood at all.
Well, I mean, okay.
I bet you could, but you can make a seafood fricassee, I bet.
Fish fricassee. Oh.
No, it's distinctly prohibited.
No, it's allowed. It says usually, yes, salmon. It's usually made with salmon if you're doing
salmon
fish.
is a freshwater fish.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't.
Wrong.
Oh, actually, aren't salmon? Are they one of the fish that's like both salt and seawater?
I think there are. I think
there are types that are.
Yeah.
I think generally it's freshwater, but there are a few.
I think they're generally freshwater, but let's see.
Salmon are considered. I almost said androgynous, but
it looks like the word androgynous.
Anadromous, which means they live in both fresh and salt water.
Ooh, that's a fun word.
Yes, I was correct. I knew.
They start. Okay, so I thought there were different types, but they start in freshwater and then they eventually move to the ocean, which seems impossible.
Yeah,
that's amazing. What a wonder life is. Life will find a way.
Life under the sea.
It's the circle of life. The wrong, but also.
Under the river.
Andromo. What's the word?
Around the river bend.
No.
Just around the river bend.
Andromonus.
Anadromous.
We're humans. We're anadromous.
Well, we don't really live in the ocean, but yeah, I guess that's true.
We're not born in freshwater and then
you don't know that.
Well, some people do the water births.
Yeah, why do they do that?
I heard
don't
it's
know.
more natural. Well, I don't know if it's more natural, but it's like less impactful.
Yeah,
it's
natural.
like
What do you mean more
underwater.
natural?
Well, it can't be more natural because humans don't, in truth, live underwater.
Well, I just mean like the transition from it's a very aqueous environment in the womb, and there's less friction and impact. It's like working out underwater, like you've seen or heard, right?
Sure, but in nature,
you mean swimming. You're talking about swimming.
In nature, mammals are born into not water.
Some
mammals are.
Some dolphins
like whales.
Oh, okay,
no,
fine.
whales. The I was gonna say hipster, but that's maybe offensive. The hipster whales give birth on land.
Why is it offensive? We can offend.
You're concerned about offending the hipsters.
No, I just don't know. I mean, I'm not concerned about
whales.
offending hipsters. I'm concerned about people who do water births, calling those people hipsters.
Okay. Offending the whales.
Yeah.
Also offending the whales. I don't want to offend them. They're big.
Is this broadcast underwater? Is our podcast just blasted underwater for the whales to hear?
That'd be cool. Somebody would be listening.
They're our biggest audience. They get us.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
No, that was our review of the Little Mermaid live action.
Yeah.
10 out of
Little
10.
Mermaid. Oh, 10 out of
right.
We're gonna do. Well, I wanted to talk about salmon before we got. We got to lay that flat before we move on. So now we can move on to the chunking of the fires. Let's talk about what we've been up to, shall we? In the long time since it's been from our last podcast.
Well, I don't know how long it's going to be between when Sean releases these.
That is true.
For the listeners, we're recording this the day after our Guardians review, and that's just because our Guardians review was super late. But yeah, anyway, we haven't nothing.
Nothing.
What did it?
Yeah.
What
But despite that fact, we do have chunks to burn.
Got some chunks in our pockets.
We've
We
been
sure
rationing
do.
them.
We've been
smart.
sandbagging the chunks.
Is that okay?
Yeah, sandbagging. You know what sandbagging is? Let's look at the etymology of sandbagging.
It's different than teabagging.
Share with Anadromos.
It's definitely different than teabagging.
Sandbagging is a strategy of lowering the expectations of a company or an individual's strengths and core competencies in order to produce relatively greater than anticipated results. Oh.
Yeah. So you're kind of like keeping something unrevealed to reveal it later to say like, oh, hey, look at this that we got for you when it wasn't expected.
That's what I've been doing my whole life. That's just like how I live.
It's a valid strategy.
It's kind of the opposite of what I do to enjoy these live action Disney remakes by, lowering my expectation.
I mean, Disney would be wise to sandbag, I think, in this context.
I'm sandbagging for them.
Exactly. What is it called when you sandbag for someone else?
Bag sanding.
Well, that was my chunk. What do you got, Matt?
You were looking up the definition of sandbag.
No, it wasn't, but we'll just start with you.
Okay. All right. Well, we're in musical mode today, so I'm going to talk about two musical-y things. One of them is I watched through both seasons of Shmigadoon. Now, gentlemen, have either of you watched the show?
Yes, I have shared it on a Chunkfire. How dare you forget? Yes, I recommended it to you highly.
Right.
I have not, but I want to. I don't have Apple TV, but I have watched a handful of the musical number clips on YouTube. I feel like that's the best way to experience any show or movie, is watching it piecemeal, out of context. It's spoiling the cool funness of the show in YouTube videos.
Yeah, Ryan, now I remember that you did recommend that, and I apologize, but also I have brain damage, so I don't apologize. I don't actually have brain damage, but you know what I mean.
You're sandbagging.
Yes, I am. No, okay, but yeah, Sean, there's a lot of good stuff on Apple TV. There's a lot of good stuff.
Well, Apple TV won't let me use my parents' account without paying for basically my own account. So, are you happy now, Apple TV? No one gets to watch it.
Just pay for it.
We have shared our love of Ted Lasso and Severance and Shmigadoon and what's the other one? The Russians win the space race one.
Oh yeah, I've seen all of these shows. It's funny. All for All Mankind.
There you go.
I haven't. I didn't get into Ted Lasso, but I heard that the final season was bad. I don't know.
I've heard that as well. I haven't actually started it yet, so it is disappointing to hear that. But I will be sure to share that once I watch it.
Right. And then Severance, I heard the future of that show is in jeopardy. So I hope that's not true. But I don't know. I didn't read much into it. I just heard that the production behind the scenes was really just very not a pleasant environment for everybody. And then also with the writer's strike, that the future is uncertain.
A lot of things.
And that's one of those shows that is very, very likely to suffer from the writer's strike. Anyway, Shmigadoon. As a musical theater fan, I really loved both those seasons. The first season, I don't love that era of musical theater. Particularly most of season 1 is its send up of Brigadoon, but also the Music Man, which I'm not a big fan of. And Ryan, I know that you're not either, because when I worked on it, you walked out at intermission.
What? No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
Maybe you walked out and then to get a drink and came back.
I'm not sure that I've seen Music Man.
Yes, no, you did. Because we went to IHOP later, and you and I had to goad it out of you and Chris, and you guys said, "Okay, yeah, we had to leave," and you said you felt secondhand embarrassment for who did you bring? One of your friends. So, honestly, Ryan, I was irritated back then, but in retrospect, I don't blame you at all. But yeah, you've definitely seen Music. Well, that's the thing. That's probably why you don't remember seeing Music Man, is because you didn't actually see all of Music Man. But yeah, season 1 of Shmigadoon is pretty much just the Music Man, and so I guess I enjoy it because I don't like that show, and it's a good send up of it. And then season 2, Shmikago, is more getting closer to the era of musicals that I'm into. So I'm hoping, season 3 is, Andrew Lloyd Webber 90s spectacle stuff. So if season 3 happens once again, who knows if that's going to happen or not.
Wait, each season, but is the whole show called Shmigadoon? Even if season 2 is called Shmikago?
It is. Yeah, it is. I mean, I guess the show has to have a name, and that's what it is. But yeah, I don't know. It's confusing. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about the season 3. But yeah, that's a good time. In actual theater, the theater that I work for just started their season with Jesus Christ Superstar. Are either of you guys familiar with that show?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Somewhat. I've never actually seen it live, but I've seen there's been multiple TV adaptations or live, broadcasts, and there's the movie, and I've caught bits and pieces of those, so I'm kind of vaguely aware of it.
I get the impression that most people are more familiar with the movie than the stage show. And I wasn't really familiar with it at all, other than knowing it's an Andrew Lloyd Webber situation. And which is, I think, the best way I can describe that show. It's a situation. Yeah,
it's a good wrestling move, the Andrew Lloyd Webber situation.
I didn't know what to expect, and it's odd. It's odd. It was tonally strange. I kind of, I think it was one of his earlier works, and I think late 60s, early 70s, and it's very hippie. And I kind of get the gist that it's a you had to be there sort of situation to fully appreciate it. So like it's nowhere near as weird as anything like Cats. I mean, that's the gold standard of Andrew Lloyd Webber weird. No, actually, I think probably Starlight Express. The music was great, and the production I saw had great sets and very good special effects. But it's like, yeah, it's a little baffling. I found the tone strange. So, again, I think it's you had to be there kind of thing. But regardless, I love going out to live theater and seeing shows I haven't seen. So I had a good time anyway. So usually do. All right, and that's what I bring to the table today. And I will pass it on to Sean. What you got?
Well, I have the greatest life event that has happened in all of Earth. That is Zelda Tears of the Kingdom came out a couple weeks ago, and I've been playing that. And by greatest, I just mean the most overwhelmingly time-consuming thing. That equals great, right? It is the long-awaited, sequel to Breath of the Wild, and Zelda just is my favorite video game franchise, so I'm a huge fan of pretty much every Zelda stuff and any Zelda thing. And Breath of the Wild was one of my faves. Love Breath of the Wild. Played that to death. And Tears of the Kingdom is everything that Breath of the Wild was, but then somehow they tripled it, but added more stuff. And it's insane. And the cool thing is, well, lots of cool things about it, but just my personal experience is I happened to be in Japan when it came out. So we went to the Nintendo store on launch day in Japan, and I bought Tears of the Kingdom in Japan from the Nintendo store in Tokyo on the morning of lunch. And it was like an awesome experience, and the store was packed, and it was just like tons of like tourists, not just tourists, but everyone, right? And there was the French people and British people and just like people from around the world all like packed into this cool Nintendo store. And there's a lot of like unique stuff that you could only get at the Nintendo store, but I got like the collector's edition. So just like that whole experience, and I was with friends, and it was awesome. It was like just a great, awesome experience. And then since I've been back from Japan, the only thing I've been doing has been playing Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, I mean, if I were to be able to beat this game in a reasonable amount of time, it would definitely be a candidate. Like, it would be something that I would love to do an episode about. We've done a few video game episodes in the past, but I can't see myself completing this game in, 2 years, let alone our lifetime. So I don't know when or how that's going to happen, because there's just so much game here. There's everything that was in Breath of the Wild, but and more. It's so weird. It makes Breath of the Wild feel almost like a proof of concept, if that makes any sense. Like, oh, this, like, right? That's ridiculous. Breath of the Wild is a gigantically massive, immersive game. How can another game make it feel like quaint? But somehow Tears of the Kingdom does. And yeah, I had to stop myself from getting into too much detail because I would talk endlessly about it. But one of the fun things is, I've avoided any like looking up to, online spoilers or things like that. So I just kind of have a mutual chat with some other friends who are playing it. And one of the fun things about it is just like collectively telling our stories. Like, oh, I found this cool little thing. And did you know you could do this? And it has this kind of vibe and fun feel of like, back when you're kids, before like the internet and before like you could look up a guide to know everything, you would just like go to the schoolyard like, oh, so did you know if you do this, you could do this move, or, if you go here, you could find this, and this is how you get to this dungeon, and, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of been a fun kind of experience as part of playing this game. But yeah, if you have a Switch, and not even if you have a Switch, everyone I know is aware the new Zelda game is out, and if you have a Switch, it probably is something that you're already either playing or plan on playing or whatever. But it's ridiculous, and it's massive, and it's huge, and it's awesome, and I'm loving every minute of it. I don't know why I have to do other things in my life. It's every time I have to stop playing Zelda, I question what's the point? What's the point? But when I am stopping Zelda, the few times I did, it was to watch the second single greatest achievement of our lifetime. And that is, I Think You Should Leave Season 3 came out. So I've been watched that. And even though that show is only 6 episodes, 15-minute episode lengths, I have spent as much time watching it as I have playing Zelda. No, not really. But I have watched through it 3 times since it's debuted. Last week, I think, is when it aired. And I know you all have also watched it. So yes. How many times have you watched I Think You Should Leave Season 3?
Like 2.5.
Okay, yeah. It's a good pace, I feel.
Just the once. And I'm sorry, but I didn't really like this season very much.
I kind of get it. I will say the difference between my first and second viewing was massive.
Yeah.
Really? How so?
As in, like, I didn't dislike the first time I watched it, but there was very few sketches that really jumped out at me as like, oh, that was really good. That was really funny. There was a few, and I felt the back half of the season was better. Overall, I was just like, yeah, okay. It didn't have the same charm as season 1 and 2. But then on the second watch, I was like laughing at every sketch, and there's already some that is like, oh yeah, these are actually just, I don't know if as good, they're of the same quality as the stuff I like about season 1 and 2. So we'll see if it holds up to time, but I've watched 3 times, and each time, as with season 1 and 2, I think it gets better with each viewing.
Yeah, I think the ones that really work better for me are the ones that have like kind of a unique idea, like the pay it forward drive-through one. That's good because it has a good payoff and it's clever. And then like another one like the one where he's in the studio audience and right, just kind of like,
oh, great.
Watches explode and hundreds of springs fly out.
I think I'm at the point where his shtick of just being the weird person in the room is getting a little tiring for me. And so I feel like a good half of the sketches this season were, it's like just that. And,
I kind of feel that.
And it's like, oh, it's weird, and he's being weird, and people are saying weird things, and look how weird everybody's acting. And those sketches don't really, they were fun for the first 2 seasons, but the ones that had some kind of like, oh, that's what the situation is. I felt like this season was lacking more of those, whereas the earlier seasons had more of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know if it's I don't know if the concept for me is starting to wear thin, or if maybe just the sketch comedy is always hit and miss. And I think that this one was just a little bit more miss than hit than the other 2 seasons. So I still had a really good time watching through it, though.
I would say if you have a chance, maybe with a present company, to watch it again with friend, like I think that definitely helps. And that was the same with season 1 and 2. I definitely had viewings where I watched it with people, and just like being in a room with people laughing helps it. But I think just even if not that context, just watching it again will improve.
Oh, I definitely will, because I've watched the first 2 seasons multiple times. So,
but yeah, it does feel like this season leans heavier into him just being a weirdo in a lot. Which, if that is kind of becomes a little bit worn and grating, I totally get that. I think some of the sketches that also work for me are when other actors have to basically act like Tim Robinson,
right? Yeah,
and sometimes that's just funny. Like, I don't know if it's the last episode, but near the end, the woman in the meeting with the T-shirt, like the HR meeting, where she wants to make a T-shirt about the meeting.
Oh yeah.
She just keeps laughing at her own stupid joke about banana breath or whatever. Back off, banana breath is what you eat, a bunch of bananas.
Yeah, that one, and it has a great like ending too, where the guy finally draws the little drawing. He's like, "This is terrible. I can't do computers."
I told you. Yeah. Also, a lot of them have like really like abruptly weird endings. Like, dive into a little bit more of the Tim Eric stuff than I think some of the past seasons. There's just like weird sound effects and stuff.
A lot of them will take a hard left turn into some new comedic concept and then immediately end. Whereas some other sketch might actually explore that and have another beat or so. It's just like, nope, you don't have time to think about that. The doggy door one with the weird monster. So there's definitely.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that one.
That one's great, and I love anytime he like starts like going into like something that's true, but the way he's saying it, like as that he gets more and more, loose ended, and he's just like, I get that it was just a pig in a mask, but for a while there, for 50 seconds, I thought they were monsters on Earth. Like. Of one of my faves is the later in the season is if you hear me talking about my kids again, stop me, with Jason Schwartzman.
Oh yeah,
that one's good. Just all his dumb like friends who just like are following him
What are we
around.
gonna do next? What are we gonna do next? I'll think of something.
Like they all just start dancing. They're so dorky and stupid. Yeah.
Well, the meta commentary of people in their middle age talking about their kids all the time, I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
The driving crooner is another one that.
See, that's one that I couldn't. That one
I think that would
improve
improve for a lot on the second viewing, but I don't just. It's just. Yeah, it's definitely him being weird, so that is a big part of it.
No, there's some nuggets of. There's definitely that one I think is memeable. I got to figure out how to make money off of this. There's a there's a good meme format in there. Gotta mind that if it isn't already one.
I also think too, like I think each season it's actually they're as ridiculous and silly and stupid as the sketches are, I do think there is a definite like a tied thematic element to all of them and kind of what I don't know what they're saying, quote unquote. I don't know if it's so high and soapboxy as that, but as like he's painting a portraiture of certain people in America, like in society, right? Like especially season 2, I think was like so precise in that, and I do think season 3 as well. But I think that like it's a slightly more, what's the word I'm looking for? Like apologetic tone to like these types. There's a lot of times where like the other where the guy who doesn't talk, where he's just like, I'm just up there doing, and people are just like, what are you doing? What is that? What are you doing? That's one that's great. And he's just like, he's just trying to do a show, and just everyone is ruining it for him. There's a lot more where it's like that the crazy people, the weirdo people aren't so aggressively malicious in this season. They're kind of, a lot of times they're victims a little bit, or they're like exploited or taken advantage of, right? I don't know. I think there's some like uniting thread to that in some way. I don't know what that means, but I don't know. Just something I've noticed.
Sometimes you just gotta find meaning.
I just like even the driving crooners. Like people want to kill. Like they want to kill you. Why? But it's like all these people just drive up to him. We're gonna kill you, driving crooners. Like why? Why do they want to kill me? I'm just doing this stupid weirdo thing, but it incites so much anger in people. Or like the last sketch where the guy is trying to start a comedy YouTube channel or whatever, and people start like threatening his parents and stuff. I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, Ryan, any favorite sketches?
On my most recent watch, my favorite was and I keep trying to find ways to slip into a conversation, except it's not really natural. It's just like, oh man, I wouldn't want to be Sean right now. And it's like with no context, and then like no, I would want to be Matt.
Oh,
because Matt has the best friend group. Matt's curated his friends precisely. It's great.
About that one. Yeah.
I think the worst part about my friend group is that I have to pay to be in it. Like just just Beck Bennett, like he nails it. Like he's
that's one
really
that Beck Bennett obviously is already a comedian, actor, and known, and he like does a good job of being the Tim Robinson character in that sketch.
Yeah. And he just nails it so well, and then it like doubles up when Tim Robinson actually shows up. Like, and that one, I don't know, just that one works so well for me. Like just even on the first pass.
But even that, I think, is a good example, right? Beck Bennett is clearly a weirdo, but he's being taken advantage of. People are like, using that to like, hurt him and like benefit in way. Anyways, also the episode or the sketch where it's Sam Richardson on the proposal garden that he has about wrestlers.
Oh, I love that one too. I hope Baby Dove dies. I hope someone tracks him down and shoots him.
The proposal garden.
One of the wrestlers. Sorry, Toilet Truck is Joseph Rudd. He was in Ghost of the Ozarks. I know that guy.
Oh,
he looked familiar, like because he's a wrestler, right? Or
that's when he started as a professional wrestler. That's why we got him for Ghost of the Ozarks.
Right, yeah.
Anyway, so he's in that sketch. Anyway, sorry,
that's cool.
To interrupt. What were you saying?
Oh, it's fine. I reflected on what I was going to say and decided that I no longer wish to.
Okay, well, sorry about that.
It's okay.
But yeah, I think you should leave. It will be quoted, I'm sure, multiple times in future episodes on this podcast, listeners. So if you want to get all of our I think you should leave jokes, go watch that show.
Well, I think I quoted something from it on the previous episode, right? Didn't I? What did I say?
Well,
I don't even remember.
Yes. Well, you're talking about the zip line.
Oh, that's right. Like that sketch wasn't actually that funny, but I was so laughing every time he was doing the zipline thing.
No,
I don't know why. Like,
you know what made that one work for me is that it came back in another episode.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
That was the punchline for me. I thought it was just mildly entertaining the first time, and just kind of chuckled, and then I went, "Oh my god, this is still doing the zipline."
There's like, I don't want to go home. Why? What's waiting for you at home? I don't know. Like, what? What do you mean? Is something bad happening? I don't know. Is anything happening? And they're just like, she's fed up. And just
yeah.
Well, that was all of our chunks. But as I started it, that's my time. So Ryan, what chunks are you adding to the
I guess I have a couple. This fricassee. I have a couple chunks I can toss into the fricassee here. Well, I watched this show called Jury Duty. I think someone mentioned it on a podcast we did. I don't know. I can't really remember, but it's pretty good.
Oh,
I'm just joking.
I see what you're doing. I see what's going on here. Yeah, I see that.
But Matt, you recommended this to me last night, as a matter of fact, and I ended up watching. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm about halfway through. It's interesting. I don't know what the point is. I sort of feel like they just made the show and then decided what the point was, like after the fact. Like
I absolutely feel that way, and I think that when you finish it, you will feel that way 100 times more.
Okay. But it's certainly interesting. If nothing else, it is interesting.
It is. Yeah, it's interesting.
So anyway, I just wanted to report on that since I did end up watching some of that.
Well, when you finish, I would like to hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I will share my thoughts. And then actually the other show I've been kind of working at, so to speak, is Columbo. I think everyone's familiar with this detective show from the 60s.
The original, or actually,
The original.
Or I don't even know if there's a reboot. I'm just assuming that there is.
I don't think there is. If there is, I'm not aware of it. But this Peter Falk, very iconic role. I think like you guys are probably just collectively aware of the name as a famous detective character.
Right.
But have either of you actually seen an episode?
No, I haven't. But actually, it's interesting that you brought that up because there's a YouTuber who reviews just random niche things she's into, who did a long video essay about Columbo. And made the case for why this is something that if you're even into mystery at all, then you absolutely should watch. And I was kind of like, maybe you should check this out.
Please, can you send me that video? Because I 100% feel the same way. Like I was blown away by the show. I think it's so far ahead of its time, and I'm talking about a show that's 60 years old. So I watched the first episode, or the first episode I ever watched was in Spain. Just one night I had gotten home and I was like, all right, let's see what's on Spanish television. In addition to discovering that Die Hard is called The Crystal Jungle, I was also privileged to watch a full episode of Columbo, and I was like, wait, what? This is what this show is? Like, if you guys haven't ever seen an episode, like, I'm not going to spoil anything, because watch one episode and you'll be like, wait, this is what this show is? It is not what I thought the show was. I mean, that I might be a little bit overhyping it just by saying that. But
I mean, I don't think I've seen a full episode, but the premise is that they're mystery, like murder mysteries, but you know who the killer is. Every episode, you actually know who the killer is at the beginning, right?
Yes.
Is that kind of the premise?
You know who the killer is, how they committed the murder, and everything. So it's so, cause I didn't know that. I was like, wait, where's the mystery? But you get so into the mystery. Like, I have a lot of thoughts, which is why I'm so interested in watching this video, Matt, that you mentioned and have now linked me. Because it's like a reversal, and the mystery becomes the how is he going to solve it, right?
Well, it's funny that you said that, because in the essay she goes and she explains the genres of mystery, the who done it and the how done it, and she gives examples of different works that fall under one or the other. So it's cool that you mentioned that's like the thing that it's built around, the how and not the who.
Yeah. Which usually, like, just in, I would say, real life, the how someone did something, like, is the less interesting part, and the why is the more interesting part, right? Just because, like, they stabbed them, okay. Yeah. But, like, why? What was the story? Right? That's what's interesting to human beings. So, and I think it goes deeper than that, and it becomes like this study of, like, it instead of trying to point a finger at a person and then how they did it and why they did it, it like becomes more about Columbo himself. Even though the caricature of him as a human being is actually pretty thin, but it's hard to really get my head around. But I highly recommend it to Sean, to you for sure, just because you're like me, we like mystery shows, and just anyone in general, just because it's like, again, I think it's really ahead of its time. Like, I don't know that there's another show that even,
well, just I maybe I mentioned this, but I don't know, Ryan, did you ever go through Poker Face?
No, just because I don't have that streaming service. I also don't have. I've been thinking I'm probably gonna do the trial thing just to get through that.
Do that.
That's
watch
like
it all, and just watch it in a week, and then cancel or whatever. But because that's the only other show that I know, and they are very intentionally and purposefully and obviously cribbing from Columbo with Poker Face. So,
okay.
For the listeners, I'll say that the channel is Pushing Up Roses, and the video is the history and influence of Columbo. Yeah, this is one of several YouTubers who we follow that just like they'll just pick a random topic that they're interested in and do a video essay. She specifically does things about children's horror media, like Are You Afraid of the Dark, Goosebumps, and 90s PC games, specifically.
That's what I know. That's what I've watched.
Yeah, she does a
point and click adventure games.
Yeah, point and click adventure specifically, and oddly enough, half of her channel are reviews of episodes of Murder, She Wrote. So,
oh wait, and now I think I know. I've come across this person then because I've seen those.
Yeah, she's I like her channel a lot. So yeah, I think you will like this video. I think you'll appreciate it for sure. It's also just
Cool.
gives a good like just an overview of the mystery genre. So yeah, cool. That makes me want to watch Columbo even more now. So cool.
Yeah, like I wouldn't necessarily, because it's a very long show too. It's like every episode is, well, I think it was split into 2 parts, and they're like an hour and a half, or maybe not that long, but anyway, they're very long, and it it has good 7-8 seasons or something. But I would just say, like, even you can probably just pick a random episode out of the whole repertoire and just like watch 1 or 2, and you kind of get the gist of it. Like, it's not like you're gonna miss anything by any sort of continuity.
Yeah, it's an episode, a classic episode
for sure. And if you're interested, keep watching. But yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to make a little mention of that.
All right. Cool.
Yeah, but that's all we got. Yeah, cool. So let's dive into the water and talk about the Little Mermaid. Spoilers for
Little Mermaid.
Disney's Little Mermaid. But let's hear that recap.
Okay. The Little Mermaid is it starts off with wait, what happened in this movie? Wait, it's the Little Mermaid. Okay.
It's just the Little Mermaid.
It's just the Little Mermaid. That's the thing. So I'm gonna just go off of my memory of the story of the Little Mermaid. So Ariel is the daughter of Triton, the king of the sea, and she longs to explore the human world. And Prince Eric is the prince. He's the Prince Eric, and he likes to go sailing, even though he's not supposed to. And so Ariel has a collection of artifacts from the human world. She dreams of going to the human world, and then she comes across Eric's vessel on his birthday, and they're having a party on the boat. And then the boat gets into a crash and is sinking, and they abandon ship, and Ariel rescues Eric from the shipwreck. And in his almost drowning haze, he recognizes her and hears her siren voice, and is smitten, and she's smitten, and she really wants to go to the human world, and she has this statue of him that she puts it in her closet, and then King Triton finds the hoarding closet and says, "He's a human, you're a mermaid," and then breaks all of her things.
Thank you.
And so that makes her sad, and so she goes to Ursula, who is the evil witch, and also her aunt, which is finally actually realized in film. And she says, "Okay, I'll turn you into a human with this spell, but you have to get the prince to kiss you, the true love's, the magic kiss, before 3 days are over, before the sun sets. Otherwise, you will become my slave, and you will live in my sea dungeon." And so she does, and she goes. Oh, and she steals her voice. You can't have your voice. So she goes to the surface. And so the whole middle part of the movie is her being taken in by the people who work at the castle. In this version of Little Mermaid, Eric he's adopted, and I guess that's important. So, she's trying to woo him, and he's kind of fallen for her, and actually it's going okay. Also, she has a fish friend, Flounder, who's not important in this movie at all. Sebastian, who is Triton's butler and is a crab. And Triton has tasked Sebastian with keeping an eye on her and keeping her safe. And so things are actually going okay. Things are fine. She's enjoying the human world, and they go to like a street fair and stuff, and she's enjoying the world. And then so Ursula's like, no. So she turns herself into a human as well and uses Ariel's voice to hypnotize the prince and steal him away. And so now they're going to get married. And so... Oh, and then Scuttle is Aquafina. Aquafina is a bird, and she's not a seagull. She's a different type of bird. But Scuttle and Flounder and Sebastian the crab, they intervene, and they are able to prevent them from getting married. And they expose her, and Ariel gets her voice back. And then Ariel is gonna kiss the prince, but then the sun sets just at the wrong time. And Ursula turns back into she's an octopus. She turns back to an octopus, and then there's a climax, and she uses Ariel as a bargaining chip to get Triton, and so she does, and then she turns into a kaiju for some reason, and then Ariel pilots a ship into Ursula's torso, and she dies. And then everything's okay now, but Ariel's sad because she's in love with the prince, and so Sebastian the crab tells King Triton to turn her back into a human, and then he does. And that is The Little Mermaid, ladies and gentlemen.
Very nice.
What did you guys think of this?
Are mermaids anadromous?
What does that mean again?
They can move between salt and freshwater.
They hunt at night.
It feels like that conversation was like an hour ago. Oh my god!
I feel like they could. I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, probably, right? There was no fresh water in this movie, so who knows? We'll never know. Also, I think you could make seafood fricassee in Zelda.
Is it actually called
that? There's a lot
that?
of cooking. I don't know. I just know you can make like hundreds of dishes, and there's plenty of seafood that you could cook with. And I know you can make like seafood stew and seafood other things. So I'm gonna try making some seafood fricassee, and I'll get back to you next episode on if that's possible.
Okay, I'll try making some.
What the ingredients? I throw some seafood. I got there's some like crab, some fish, obviously. Throw in like some peppers, maybe some milk, and some vegetables for like a stew.
You're gonna need white wine. You're gonna need cherry tomatoes. Toast.
So there's tomatoes. There's no white wine.
You're gonna need
leeks.
There's
wheat. There's leeks.
You're gonna need vegetable oil.
There's Goron oil. Does that probably works? Right?
I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, what did you guys think of this live action reimagining? The next in the endless chain of live action reimaginings of Disney classics. What did you guys think? Sean, what were your impressions of this movie?
I don't want to be around anymore. There you go, listeners. See, there's one right there. No, actually, I mean, I don't know how to talk about these movies. I feel like I'm just exhausted thinking and talking about the live action remake thing. All that being said, this is maybe my favorite of the live action remakes, with the one except for Cruella, which I still stand by Cruella wholeheartedly, although I would say that's maybe not quite a remake, right? But aside from that, this I think is probably my favorite. But I still am not sold on this idea. I still am not behind this idea. And we'll get into it, but I think ultimately it comes down to me. Is there ever a scenario in the world where I would rather watch this film over the original animated? And as much as I do think this film holds up, and maybe I'm not using fair standards to judge it, I would still always watch the animated. But we'll get into that discussion. Anyways,
Sure.
I thought it was a good film. I have feelings. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, would you say, what about the Jungle Book?
Yeah, sorry. Jungle Book I would also put higher. I think, yes, sorry, thanks for reminding me, because I would also put Jungle Book higher than this as well. But after that, we'll get into why I would put that higher, but yes.
Okay. Ryan.
Yeah, yeah. I thought about going through the live action ones and ranking them. I would definitely put Jungle Book highest. Um, this being below, I guess, yeah, below Cruella. I don't know. I mean, and I think probably we'll maybe share reasons why Cruella and Jungle Book get higher marks. But yeah, I didn't hate this. I don't know if I hated Lion King either, but it definitely was. It got low marks in my book. This one, it took me maybe a third of the movie to like kind of just succumb to it. And once I was like in it, I was like, okay, this isn't actually that bad. All right, I'm not hating life right now. Okay, but yeah, at the end of the day, I just kind of didn't really care about it to a whole lot of anything. Um, it didn't really need to exist. I just feel like Disney doesn't like. Are they? I think they're maybe just they. It makes me feel like they don't know why the animated classics are so beloved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the impression I walk away with.
Right. Well, since we're, comparing it to the others, I'd agree. I think this is one of the better ones. I did enjoy this movie, and I did say that, yeah, I do think it's one of the better ones. That being said, I think my level at which I am able to enjoy these live action remakes definitely has a cap to it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And I think, a lot of that, and probably a lot of our talking points from the other live action reviews we've done are going to be recycled in this episode. But I read an article saying, a think piece about these, and somebody was kind of saying, like, at this point these are kind of like cover versions of a song, and that's kind of how they were thinking about it. And like cover versions of a song, like a beloved song, a lot of them don't need to exist, and a lot of them don't do anything interesting with the original song. But I do think that there are covers that, when they take the time to figure out, like, what is it that people like about this, and how are we going to put our take on it? How are we going to make it unique? And there's an intention. There's an intent to give it their own flavor. That's, I think, when cover songs work, and I think that's also when these live action Disney movies work, and despite the intention behind them. Like, you guys were talking about Cruella. I think the corporate intention is the same. So that's why I think you could argue that it fits. It fits in here because it has the same style. It has the same. It feels like it's the same factory that's making them, but it is an original idea, and it's not the same story as 101 Dalmatians. So in my mind, I also kind of can see putting it in a different category. So like, for sake of that, I am going to put that in the different category.
That's fine. Totally understandable. Yeah.
So I think why this one and Jungle Book work for me is, more so than the other ones, compared to, like, for me, like, the worst of the worst is Lion King. It's like, what are you adding here? What are you doing here? What is your twist on the material? And I have a list of talking points for this, and I'd like to open it up with the one that, well, okay, why is Ariel black? I want to start with that one.
Okay.
Well,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. So I guess my take on it is, to me, there doesn't need to be a reason for her to be black.
Right.
Obviously, it's knowing Disney is a cynical corporate machine. That's not why she's black, because it's not just a natural thing that they just cast her and she was the best performer out of all the people tried. That's not actually what happened. But in an ideal world, that's the situation, and we wouldn't be asking why she's black, right?
Right.
So I guess I don't know if that really answers your question, but that kind of is how I was like, yeah, I don't know why not. I guess
right.
Is my kind of thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. My take is I agree with everything Sean just said. I think the reality might be a little more cynical, that Disney knew the reaction that they would get, and they wanted that.
Well, yeah, they had to know that they were going to get a reaction on both sides, air quotes, about yay inclusion, but also, the worst takes, what I'm talking about. Right. Yes, and they also knew that, and this just happened, that the movie tanked in China and it tanked in South Korea,
Oh, did it? I mean, I
for
wasn't aware
the
of
same
that,
reasons,
sure.
because of,
Yeah.
blatant racism. So I want to give this movie the benefit of the doubt here. And I have a take here that I have not seen, and I want to talk about the musical Once on This Island.
I'm not aware.
Are you guys familiar with Ryan? I think you saw.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay, so I'm very familiar with this musical. My sister was in it in high school.
Yeah,
That's
was the production I saw.
That was the first time I saw it, and then I worked on a production at the high school where I teach. It was the first musical that I've ever been tech director for. So I became intimately familiar with the show, every aspect of it. And then later on, I saw professional production at the Moonlight a few years later. That was after in 2018, I believe, there was a Broadway revival of this show, and it brought the show to a lot of younger viewers, Gen Z in particular. So it had a little bit of a revival a few years ago. And I think that's important given the year that this movie's coming out. But some background here. Once on This Island is a retelling of the original Little Mermaid tale. The more tragic version.
And the Hans Christian original.
Which, is a very European story, the original. And they made the decision to set this in the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
And it is all about like colonialism and class drama. The prince, it's in French. What is the region? The French Antilles, right? So the French occupied parts of that region of the Caribbean seas. So the prince is a French guy. He's white. The girl, she's not a mermaid in this, but she's poor. She's a poor black girl, and it reimagines the story having to do with like the gods, like, and so there's a bargain. She's trying to get it has a more tragic ending. But I see this movie, and I see that like you see the influences. There's, I would say it's not just I would say that probably the cast is like, I think there's many black actors as there are white actors in this movie. And I'm not trying to make it just strictly about black and white, but I think that's...
I think that they make this set in a very specific place that was not part of the animated one originally. Right. This is clearly like, Jamaica was not originally, but occupied by England for a while. Like, that's what it made me think of. Like, This seems very specific to a Caribbean place that is, obviously somewhat imaginary, but based on historical events and things and goings on.
Just like how Arendelle and Frozen is not literally Norway, but like you watch it and you go, come on, it's Norway. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And that's what I feel like. So I want to humor this idea that I think Disney saw, they were already on this remake train, and they saw that this musical, Once on This Island, that's already a retelling of The Little Mermaid, has regained popularity. And I'd like to think that the people, the creatives in this film, they're like, okay, well, we know Little Mermaid's going to happen. All the other ones are happening. I'd like to think that the creative team went, let's lean into this. Like, and part of the reason why I think that is that the original Little Mermaid, even though it's as European as the original tale, the big numbers, Under the Sea, and Kiss the Girl, they are very Caribbean in flavor.
Yeah.
And so I think they probably, to me in my mind, it's like, okay, you take these pieces and you put them together, right?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. For sure.
And so then you think about it, and you think in this movie, Triton's daughters are all from the seven seas, and they are all of different ethnicities, right? Mm-hmm. So you take this idea that they all come from different parts of the world. Okay, well, it would make sense for Ariel because of the location to be black.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why I think, on some level, you're right. There's a cynical take that, like inclusion for inclusion's sake, but I also think that that this is not, it's not a case of them just saying, we're going to make Ariel black.
They're not just slapping it on there without doing some sort of
because when
work.
When Eric is taking her in the carriage, and you see people playing the steel drum, and you see all the different. It's inspired by that region of the world. So that's why I think that this one is. I think this one's a cut above, and.
Yeah, I mean, you make a really good case for that, and I think that's actually something I hadn't thought about so specifically. But it makes me appreciate it more. I think the daughter stuff, and how they're all like very international from all different seas they're from. That kind of already kind of lean that way, or kind of hinted at that. And I think it's also one of those things where. I don't know how to describe it, but it's like a thing because it's a thing. Whereas if it wasn't a thing, it wouldn't have been a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make
no?
It
actually does make sense.
Yes, like the only reason that it's a thing is because idiots made it a thing.
Right,
like this wouldn't have been a thing. Like if this came out in the '60s, when obviously, and maybe it was because the racism was more subdued and not on the surface, and people had a decorum about their like I don't know. This wouldn't have been a thing. This is like, oh yeah, okay, that's the character who's in this show. Like, I mean, obviously it didn't come out in the '60s, and but what I'm saying? I don't know. It just feels like people are angry, and it's a thing because people are angry. It's a cyclical Ouroboros with no real reason behind any of it. And the anger and the discourse is what I mean. Like the actual content is obviously there's no issue with it, and there's I don't know, the idea that just the pure idea of people upset that I don't know. I don't want to get too much into it, but you know what I mean, like that, like really people are upset. Like how racist can you be that people are literally upset there is a person of color in a movie? Like
I mean, all of that is awful. All of that is awful, but also. On a less important note, it makes me irritated because it's such a shallow reading of the movie. Like, if you actually sit down and watch the movie, everything about it feels intentional from an artistic and a production design.
Yeah.
Everything about the setting and the location, it feels intentional to me. In the same way that Jungle Book feels intentional. And they're like, look, we're really going to explore, like, technology, fire and specifically, and how that affects society and how the dangers behind that and all that. It felt like they had a concept for Jungle Book and that they wanted to lean into it, right? And for me, Jungle Book, that's why it's strong, is because they went with a take that the animated version does not go with. And I don't think that it works as well in Little Mermaid, because I think a lot of this concept, if that is what they were going for, doesn't quite gel as nicely as I would want it to.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate, and I definitely like aspects of this film more, looking at it, just kind of re-examining some of the things with that more intentional direction that you just kind of painted. Because, like, obviously Mowgli is going to be of Indian heritage, because that film, we know the original, Rudyard Kipling is Indian, and he originally wrote this about, and you're like, obviously, we don't think of it. Like, imagine if the original Jungle Book was, I don't know, a Caucasian boy lost in the jungle, and then they updated Jungle Book for it to take place in a historical place, like, in India, the subcontinent of India. Like, that makes sense. Perfect. That's great. It doesn't take anything away, but it gives more historical, weight to the events and places, So it's the same. I don't know. I mean, this is kind of a circular back and forth rambling. Right. But I just, I like what you're saying. Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of those worst takes are from people who haven't actually seen the movie, which is always the case. So, So, on that note, there's a lot of things I don't like about this movie. So I think I've talked enough for right now. I don't think that this could be a proper review of a live action Disney remake if we don't be mean to it. So I think we should. Sure. And I would like to hand it over to you guys about why, because I think I made my case for the movie. For a movie that even then I'm still like, it was pretty good. I didn't love it. Yeah, I would see it again. But
I would see it again too. And again,
you posed the question in do any of these movies? Is there a situation where you would choose to sit down and watch this and not the original? And I would say this one's close to that.
It's the closest that they have come, except for Cruella and Jungle Book.
Yeah,
those aside.
We're not talking about Cruella. Put that.
I know.
in the other
I'm
box.
just saying. But this is definitely the closest. Yeah, I definitely would rather watch. Definitely more than Lion King or Beauty and the Beast or Pinocchio. God, Pinocchio. Yeah, right. All that stuff. But that being said, yeah, there's definitely things that I don't like about this.
Yeah.
Too.
So, tell me of those things.
Well, it's too long. Why is it so long? I mean, that's a symptom of other things, but just in general, like all of these movies now everything's too long. And this is someone who will watch Lord of the Rings Extended Edition multiple times in a row and be happy with it.
Yeah.
When I'm saying things are too long, they're too long. Cut Little Mermaid doesn't mean 2 hours and 20 minutes.
I don't.
Was it really that long?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What?
And it's like it's almost an hour longer than the original.
Yeah.
The original's 90 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I mean, to its credit, like you said, they're generally, I think everything was portrayed well and well, produced and all that stuff. But like, I feel like it's just like every scene takes up 1 minute more than it needs to.
Yes.
Just like squeeze, just get it tighter. Just like, come on.
It's pacing.
Yeah.
I mean, a movie can be 4 hours long, and if it's interesting the whole time, then I don't care.
Yeah.
But
but I found myself in the theater checking my phone more often than I like to even admit, because I definitely try not to do that in movie theaters. But and then the other thing that jumps out to me is something that I generally legitimately thought was like not good, like something I disliked was the new music. And not just because it's new and everything bad's new, it has to be the same. No, I'm not saying that. I think that each kind of additional song I didn't like for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
The Eric song was just very boring. I thought it was just like a boring nothing. I got really nothing out of it. It felt like it was in there because they were adding to Eric's character, which I think is a good thing. I actually, in general, like that aspect of it a fair amount.
Right.
The song felt just very arbitrary and forgettable. The rap.
I gotta talk about that. That's one of my bullet points.
Oh, the scuttlebutt?
What's the scuttlebutt?
Yeah.
I think the only reason that existed is they wanted to get Awkwafina to say the word "butt" a lot. So mission accomplished.
Yeah, I guess that's true. If that was their intent, then A+.
I have to go on a tangent here.
Okay.
Do you guys know about Morning Report?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking
about? What do you mean? You mean the song?
The song, you know what I'm talking about when I say the Morning Report. The song. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Morning Report is notoriously like the worst part of the Broadway Lion King show. Like in an otherwise perfect show, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like my favorite stage show of all the time. Here's Morning Report, where Zazu shows up and gives a morning report, but as a weird little cartoony song. And I don't know anybody who likes that song. But the thing is that over time, they have started removing that song from productions. And now they did this thing where, in the 90s, not in the 90s, early 2000s, when they were releasing all their, the animated musicals to Blu-ray, they added a scene in Beauty and the Beast from the Broadway show, which was Human Again, which I think is a great number. It's the big, Act 2 opening number. I think that's a great song. I think that's a great addition to the original musical, or the original movie, and I think they integrated it really well. So then when they did Lion King, there's so many good songs from the Broadway show that they could have picked, and they picked Morning Report. Yeah. So I don't think you can get that version of the movie anymore. I don't think it's streaming. I don't think you can buy it. I think Disney buried it. But there are copies of The Lion King with the animated Morning Report. Anyway, but now in the time that we're living in, it doesn't exist. It's not in the stage show anymore. It is gone. They effectively deleted it. And now here comes the Little Mermaid live action, and we have a song from a bird. What's the scuttlebutt? It is the rebirth of Morning Report.
I mean, aside from the cringy, just like let's put a rap song in here. It doesn't fit, like, that in of itself is nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't, like, you're just forcing this square peg into a circle hole. That's not what Little Mermaid is. Like, why is this genre of music in this movie?
You know,
doesn't make
you know what it feels like to me, and you know what really makes me think this, because I know that Alan Menken came back to work on some of the newer songs in this movie, which I want to talk about too. But Scuttlebutt was by Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yeah,
and I feel like he's like, hey, you guys are doing Little Mermaid? I love Little Mermaid. Can I write a song? And they're like, okay, if you gotta. We need you to make more movies for us in the future, so okay, if it'll make you happy, you can write the Aquafina rap. I don't know anybody who likes this song either. Is the thing.
Well, I wouldn't blame him as much. Well, yeah, sure, blame him, but I think Disney's definitely went after him. I mean, they
I mean,
I feel like they have him on Hot Dial. What is it called? Speed Dial.
Hot Dial. Yeah. I like Hot Dial more, but he's just kind of their go-to. Just like, we need to make this movie longer, I guess, for some reason, and we need more songs. Get Lin-Manuel. There's other composers. Nope. Get Lin-Manuel Miranda.
I mean, I want to know. It's a chicken and the egg situation for me. Did they?
Yeah.
Like they know, like, okay, we're Aquafina is Scuttle. Aquafina raps. Lin-Manuel writes rap. Which concept came first? Which was the Which is the first thing? Did they go, we want Lin-Manuel to write some music for this, and he said, oh, I'm going to do a rap, so we should get Aquafina? Or did it... What? I don't know. I want to know...
Well, I think Aquafina is also on their speed dial, too, right?
At this point, yeah. I mean...
Yeah.
They just... Yeah, They just like, oh yeah, we love what you did with voice acting in Raya. You're in. You're back in.
You're in. You're another animal creature.
But like another thing I don't understand about these live action remakes, I have this criticism with pretty much every single one, is that a really well received Broadway version already exists for all of these movies that has original music in it. Like, when Belle runs away from the castle in Beauty and the Beast, the Emma Watson Belle, Beast sings a sad ballad. That's the same thing happens in the stage show, and that song is way better than the one they wrote for the movie. Why did they feel the need to do that? I wonder
if it's some weird dumb rights thing. Maybe
I don't know, but
could be.
It doesn't make.
Yeah, the thing is that you specifically mentioned the Prince Eric song, just how dry it is. Yeah, he has an equivalent song in the stage show too, and it is once again a much better song.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's so weird that, and then the other third big addition, I think there might have been more, but these are three songs I remember that is when Ariel first is on land, and I actually think this is the best of the three. I think it fits more with the movie. It's more fun and peppy, and it's about her like interacting with the human world for the first time. And I actually think that song's actually not bad. What I don't like about it is that she's singing it right when she's supposed to be mute. I know she's not actually singing it; it's in her head. But it's right when that character is supposed to be mute, and we're supposed to, as an audience, like, oh, she can't sing anymore. We have her singing. Like, wait, no, you're under my... Like, so I actually like I think the song's fine. I just don't like how it's integrated. I don't know how else they do it without her, like, kind of... I don't know. It just...
Yeah.
Just another...
And if I'm going to compare with Broadway again, there is an equivalent song, but on stage, you kind of understand that, okay, we know the characters... She can't talk, but if she's bursting out into song, it's non-diegetic. That's how all musical numbers work. We kind of know that this isn't happening. But the movie equivalent, if none of the other songs are, if they're all non-diegetic, Under the Sea didn't actually happen, then okay, well they made the creative decision to have it sung in voiceover while her mouth is closed the entire sequence. Yeah. So it makes, because it's film and it's film language, now it's a montage. Yeah. And that's weird. I couldn't enjoy anything about that sequence because I couldn't help but think about how weird it all was and how weird of the choices that were being made. And that was rough. Yeah,
I think actually the song, I think is better than the other two. Yeah. And I like it as itself, as a song. It didn't work for me in the way it was integrated.
No, I agree with that. I think I do like it as a song, but as far as the additions go, I think it's my least favorite, even more so than Scuttlebutt. Because
I guess Scuttlebutt's short enough that it's kind of
also
gone pretty quick.
Scuttlebutt ends up immediately after that is the funniest moment in the movie for me. When she throws the blanket on Scuttle and Sebastian the Crab, and they sit there not moving for like a good 15 seconds in silence, and then Sebastian says, "Scuttle, you're too close to me." I don't know why, but I laughed very loud out loud, and I was the only one in the theater when that happened. Like, I don't know why.
Yeah, that did not get me, but I liked that someone laughed at it as much as you did.
It's just such a weird little moment. I'm like, because it's like, why are they sitting there in silence? Is that going to be
what are they
not moving? Are they dead?
Well, so since we're kind of talking about criticisms, there's I have 2 or 3 other kind of broad notes.
Oh, I got more. Let's keep.
Well, yeah, sure, but
plenty.
So one of there's definitely some things in this that they added that I appreciated and I liked overall. But one thing that I did not like that they added was this whole subplot about the sea gods and the humans the sea gods are at war with us and what? I didn't like any of that stuff. I didn't understand it. I didn't like it. It didn't add anything. I don't think it added anything. I guess it's supposed to draw a little bit of a parallel between, Triton and his kingdom and how the humans and they have their prejudices too. And what? What is she talking about?
I think it would have mattered more if the existence of the Sea World was a known thing.
Yeah.
But it's very much mythological, even in the context of the movie. So it's what do you mean you're at war? It's like us saying we're at war with Martians. Okay, wait, now what now?
Yeah. No, that was something that also bothered me because you then get into, you start asking questions about how the world works. And I always just assumed in the original that humans don't know that mermaids are real.
Right.
Yeah, that's there again. It's a myth. And I think that's fine. That makes sense in the context of the film.
And I'm if I'm going back to the Once on This Island thing, the gods in Once on This Island are characters and they're important, and the other characters worship them and they treat them as if they're real, and they're the mythological fantasy element. So I'm wondering if they go, okay, we're going to do that too, but it doesn't work in this setting for me. And like you said, Sean, it doesn't add anything. It just takes up screen time.
Yeah.
And
it just confuses things too a little.
Yes. Other maybe topic that maybe was an addition that didn't add anything was, well, debatably, is Eric's backstory. Now, on one hand, I kind of we should probably flesh out this character, considering he's the love interest and blah, blah, blah. And so that is one reason, Sean, like you said, I did like that they gave him a song. I didn't like the song itself. It was boring and just kind of okay, let's move things along here. But at the same time, I still I did like that they at least put some kind of effort into building his character. At the same time, I'm trying to decide why it matters that he was an orphan or an adopted.
Yeah,
person.
That part I don't know.
I'm trying. Does it matter?
Yeah.
Why does it matter? But in any case, the scene that maybe actually appreciate it the most is that we get little droplets of his backstory that there's early conversation with him and his adopted mother where they make that reveal or whatever. They're kind of discussing his role in the kingdom, blah 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 blah. But we just get little inklings of his backstory. But then there's a scene where he's about to monologue his backstory to Ariel after they get done with the big adventure, or I think it's yeah. Uh-huh. And so he's he's really gonna open up to her and spill out his whole backstory, and he gets 1 or 2 sentences into his story, and he's interrupted by something else. Or hey, shut up! There's this movie to do, and and they never go back to his backstory, and I loved it so. That was the scene I laughed at because they're oh man. And I think, I want to say it's they knew what they were doing. They were meta, we don't care about his backstory. You thought we were going to get a big backstory from him? Nope, it's not important. Let's move on. So I want to give him credit for that one.
I just had a really terrifying thought
Okay.
Well,
Please share.
okay, so this is real. They're making a sequel to the live-action Lion King movie,
Yeah.
and somebody
That is terrifying. That's terrifying
in
enough.
itself, but somebody at Disney, some executive who somebody in an interview like this week said, we envision Lion King to have the potential as like Marvel or Star Wars, and we could turn it into a big sprawling mega franchise.
What?
Lion King?
Yes.
What?
Live action Lion King. The
No,
worst live
what?
action remake. There are people at Disney who feel that it has franchise potential. I'm not making this up. This is real. You can look this up. This is something I just read. I came across my feeds yesterday. I bring that up as potentially terrifying because we are talking about all these little hints at backstory to the Little Mermaid that don't go anywhere. Are they setting up sequels to this too?
A universe? No, and then they do a crossover and the whole Disney live-action universe.
Is that what they're doing?
Or
are they doing Kingdom Hearts?
I mean, maybe that makes more sense than just a Lion King universe. Like if they somehow tried to fit them all somewhat.
Because
Lion King universe.
Ariel. Okay, Little Mermaid. And on the Broadway show, they talk more about Triton and Ursula's relationship, about how they're siblings, and about how they're the kids of Poseidon, and Poseidon gifted them these magical artifacts, and how Triton kind of screwed Ursula over, and he's not portrayed quite as benevolently in the stage musical, etc., etc. And they could have gone into that in this movie, but there's potential for them to go into the gods and do more with Little Mermaid if they were going to. I don't want them to, but if they were going to, but Lion King they're just animals.
Yeah,
they're just some animals in a field.
Yeah, it's not a very dynamic world they've built so far. Like, you're right. Little Mermaid does have more to work with.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they touch on...
Whatever.
No.
This is not
It's
here,
bizarre.
there, nor there, but it reminded me, Big Joel's YouTuber, who I mentioned on previous episodes, but he did a video essay a couple weeks ago where he just reviewed every single one of the Disney animated sequels.
Uh-huh.
So Little Mermaid 2 and Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast holiday fun time. And
What about the Aladdin ones? The Aladdin ones are pretty good.
Yeah, he actually says Aladdin, especially the second one. He's like, this is one of the better ones. But he briefly talks about each one, and he has funny take. And there's like one part where he's talking about the Brother Bear sequel apparently they made, and he's just like, how are these characters sexually attracted? It's like, because at the end of Brother Bear, I guess they both turn into bears, and he's like, it's this person. Because if you're a human who's turned into a bear, are you now attracted to other bears? Or why would you want to be married to this other bear? Even though you're both bears, doesn't mean you're attracted to a bear as a former human that is now... Anyway, but it reminded me of kind of what you're saying, this universe. Like, everything has to have sequels.
Right.
And everything has to be built into a franchise and stuff.
I don't know if you know, but Cinderella 3 is supposedly really, really good. And without going too much into it, Cinderella 3 has time travel. It has a redemption arc for one of the ugly stepsisters, and it also has a scene where the prince jumps out of a window.
Man, that actually does sound good because there's already
They should just skip the original classic animated movies and just do live action remakes of the sequels of the Disney movie.
I want to see more. Return to Oz is what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Return to Oz is already live action.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like but it's a sequel, and it just goes to bonkers land immediately.
Just go straight there.
Yes. Yes, skip Cinderella too. In fact, I just want to know what's going on.
Yeah, I'm 100% on board with time travel and Cinderella.
Well, good. Back to Little Mermaid. I agree with what you're saying. The point of him, I don't know why he had to be adopted. Maybe because they were really thinking of this more plausible reality-based world where it's a Caribbean island, so the indigenous people are going to be dark-skinned. But in that case, why not just make Eric an indigenous prince? Why does he have to be a European prince? I don't know. It does feel like maybe they thought about it, but I'm still not really sure if it adds to anything either way that he's
right.
And see, that's why my tinfoil hat theory of this having been inspired by Once on This Island. I feel like if that's true, then that's where some of the analogies start to fall apart, and it doesn't quite work in that context in some ways.
Yeah.
But it's something. It is
something
it's
for sure.
At least the lens to view this movie through, and it's more so than the setting for me. It's more so than anything that most of these other live action movies do.
Yeah, I agree, and I think to the greater purpose of just maybe the adoption stuff doesn't quite work, but in general, one thing I mentioned, but I like that Eric is now an actual character.
Right.
Like, there's that element where it's like, oh, are they just doing it because Little Mermaid was criticized and she doesn't have any agency and stuff, like, which I think are blown out of proportion. That's Little Mermaid is fine. Like, I don't like the idea of Disney remakes trying to fix this notion of, oh, the original had problematic things in it and stuff. Like, yeah, okay, whatever. Who cares? We don't need to fix them. But I like that Eric is a full character, and he's kind of a doofus, but he's well-intentioned, kind of naive.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think they had chemistry. I think it worked. I like that. I like that.
I do like that
something
too.
I thought was.
Since you brought it up, though, this movie does fix one of the things that I had an issue with the original, is that by the third act, Ariel has nothing to do.
Yes.
And just by the simple act of having her drive a boat into Ursula, which is insane, and always has been, that at least is like by the end of that original movie, she's just waiting around for everybody else to complete the story,
right.
And that not so much in oh, it's problematic. It's just like I don't know. It becomes less interesting to me that way.
Yeah, it's not a great story.
I think from a story perspective,
that's what I
right.
mean.
She's our main character. Yet she's on the sidelines for the final.
Right. That always kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Right, but on the flip side, having Eric did the boat killing, also showed Triton that he was worthy of.
Yeah, there was
his daughter,
part of
kind
a
of thing,
reason
and
to it,
and redemption for the humans in a way.
No, that's true.
So okay, you can't win them all unless you can. And here's my way to do it: have them freaking work together in the climax.
Yeah.
Have them get to the boat together and say, she doesn't freaking know how to drive a boat, okay, but Eric does because he's a sailor. And whatever, you come up, and now we get to see them working together and having chemistry in a stressful situation. And so they're overcoming a challenge together. I thought they did have good chemistry on camera during when they're having fun. But man, doesn't that make their relationship that much stronger to see them work together in this way?
Man, it would have been so easy to just have Ariel distract Ursula. I'll distract her while you do a thing.
Yeah, or any number of things. In so long as they're working together to overcome the problem.
Yes.
And then you could have your cake and eat it too, right?
Yeah.
Ariel gets to have agency. Eric gets to be the hero and redeem humans in Triton's eyes.
Yeah, and then you go, it's obvious. Triton goes, it's obvious these two have to be together.
Yes.
Yeah, right. If he even somehow, he would be kind of dead-ish, but somehow if you could even maybe see them working together, oh, I do see that she loves him, or she belongs up there and whatever.
Yeah. But on the other hand, when Ursula dies, she doesn't get all lightning.
No,
skeleton-y.
I hated that.
Yeah,
and so it gets negative marks from me.
Yeah.
Because of that.
It actually was funny. That scene happened, and then it was over. I'm like, oh. I guess that's how she dies, and it's over. I was
it was very quick.
It was
this is the Disney California Adventure ride version of it, where if you recall, Ursula dying is just kind of in the background, and it's never.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It's
how did we win? No,
just don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. Get off. Get off now. We ran out of space in the building.
Yeah. So in general, though, I think that was, again, I don't know if I want to even say improvements, but something I appreciated and liked about the film, Eric, in general. Another thing I didn't like in overall, and this has also been, somewhat in the discourse, but I think I liked the film more, when she got out of the water. The second half of the film, when she's above land, and it's a oddly ironic fish out of water story more. But why is the above land more colorful than the sea? It's so dark, and I don't like the creature designs, and I know that's gets a lot of hubbub. But I'm not gonna lie, Flounder looks
stupid,
kind of gross, and I don't like Flounder. how he looks.
I feel
Well,
like
he doesn't also do anything.
No,
like, in the
he doesn't
original,
do
he was
anything,
like
that's
this
right.
charming, almost
Yeah.
kind of felt like he had a crush on Ariel or something. Like there was
Yeah.
some sort of character there. He doesn't do anything.
in the
It doesn't help that he looks like a fish, and we know that fish are mindless, dumb millions of them that we see every day. When you have a
Right.
character that looks like that, to like attribute to personify that is a lot harder than if you have a cool, cute, animated face doing
Yeah.
things.
Ryan.
And this is a little bit what I was getting at in terms of Disney doesn't like it feels like Disney doesn't understand why these animated movies
Yeah.
are so beloved is they're colorful and
Yeah.
loud and vibrant and the characters are very emotive. All these animals have been anthropomorphized and they're expressive and they're playing instruments and they're dancing around and they're singing and Flounder is mischievous, right? He's and they removed all of that. There's no personality in any of the creatures' faces or body. They don't play instruments. Negative marks once again.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's something I wanted to.
I will say I was surprised at how much the Under the Sea was still actually better than I was expecting it to be, because especially because up to then the sea had just kind of been like, it's dark or whatever, but it was more colorful than I was expecting and a little bit more flamboyant than I was expecting, especially like after I Just Can't Wait to Be King and how disappointing that sequence was from Lion King. I think this is a better version of that, but it still doesn't stand up to the original, I don't think, in terms of just the sheer fun, colorful,
Right.
and absurdity of it all.
Yeah, I agree, and also because like the lyrics are so fun, and there's so many clever lyrics in a lot of these songs in the original, and the whole the bridge of the song, where there's all those fish puns, the newt play the flute, the carp play the harp.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice that in the movie when he's singing that, it's a shot of sea turtles crawling around for that entire verse?
I do remember. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, a bunch of the lyrics do not match what visually we're seeing.
I did notice that. Yeah, like he's announcing all these things about all these animals playing instruments, and that's how I made note of that. I was like, so yeah, but they're not doing the things you're describing.
Well, yeah, that's where you get into the weird territory of we're doing this live action, so there needs to be an element of realism, but it's all ridiculous. But then you can't like magic and mermaids, that's fine, but having fish play instruments, that's too far. Because then you have to ask, like, where did they get the instruments? Did they make them? How did they make these instruments? Then you start questioning everything.
They don't have opposable thumbs.
But I was already sort of questioning it because, like, yeah, again, questions we shouldn't be asking, I suppose. But Triton, like, in the original, was very, like, well, in Sebastian was like, oh, they're barbarians, they kill us and stuff. It's like, the ocean is nothing but animals just murdering each other all the time.
Literally, the first scene is a shark trying to kill the main character. Like,
if fish could talk and I stuck my head underwater, all I would hear is fish screaming like,
Yeah.
I thought I looked like that rock.
It's like, well, Triton.
Sorry,
Triton, look, humans are the dominant species on the land. You guys are the dominant species under here. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So that doesn't roll for me.
Yeah.
Sorry. Also, I butchered that Mitch Hedberg joke, but
okay, why did they cut out the French chef?
Yeah, I was disappointed. That was definitely something I was waiting for. I'm like, oh, this French chef, Rene Arjabanois, Odo's gonna be in here. Cut it all.
Bummer.
Well, he's dead.
I was disappointed in that. So my pitch too for the underwater stuff is like, they already had this. Go watch Bedknobs and Broomsticks, and you have the plan for a perfect rendition of what you could do. If you're making a live-action Little Mermaid, that's fine. She gets out of water. It's almost like a Wizard of Oz moment. Or, like she wakes up in the real world, and it's more realistic. But imagine if, like, everything under the sea is literally animated. Like Bedknobs and Broomsticks, or maybe CG, fine, whatever.
Or like
but it's like actual... Or Enchanted, right? Like, I don't know. Like, that's something, right? There's something
then
there.
Couldn't you just reuse the footage from the original movie?
Yes. I would be more okay with that. As opposed to just, like, I don't understand why. Like, so it has to be, what is this agenda that they feel must be adhered to, that things need to be realistic? Because it's not that it's live action. Sure, you have Halle Berry and Javier Bardem doing mocap in nothing at all resembling reality in terms of how it's being filmed. Everything in the shot is actually animated. It's CG
Right.
and, produced. So you're not actually filming live action. It's not actually live action. You're still animating it. Why not make it? If you're going to animate it, then animate it. Make it colorful. Make it like that. And then you can have your cake and eat it too, again, by when she goes to the real world or, the surface world, then you have, it's a live action movie. It's Bedknobs and Broomsticks. It's Roger Rabbit. Like,
Fun reference.
I was
maybe
thinking
not
of
to that
Roger
extreme,
Rabbit too.
but something like
Bedknobs
that.
and Broomsticks, underrated, I think.
Right?
Yeah.
There you go. It's right there in front of you. So just, and again, I don't even necessarily think it like looks wholly bad in and of itself, the underwater stuff. It's just, again, we're comparing it to the obvious, like The Thing. Why would we not compare it to The Thing? But
Man, Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Bedknobs and Broomsticks, man.
I haven't, Sean. I stopped paying attention to anything you're saying because I couldn't stop thinking about Bedknobs and Broomsticks. What a weird movie.
Learn witchcraft, fight Nazis. That's the moral.
Exactly.
I would love to see.
There's
a
not
live-action
been a
remake of
more
that.
timely film that needs to do a live action remake. Of
Yes.
Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Just straight up remake. That's good. That's fine.
Yeah.
Why not?
Learn witchcraft, fight Nazis. I'll learn a lesson from Bedknobs and
go.
Broomsticks. It's the movie we need right now.
Exactly.
You know what? You're right. It is. Okay, sorry. We can go back to Little Mermaid.
Well, we don't have to.
Yeah,
we could.
Let's do a review of Bedknobs and Broomsticks. I can't stop
Have
thinking
we
about
not?
that movie
Have
right
we
now.
still not reviewed something that's like old? Because that would be
I
quite.
don't
That
think
would
we
be
have.
quite the
No,
pick for
we
our
haven't.
first one.
The first
Yes,
one to
it
go
would.
back to.
Man. Well, okay.
Yeah.
We'll save that for.
Yeah, we'll save it.
Well,
I'm trying to think. What Ryan? I know you said you had some more.
Yeah, well, I wanted to.
criticism.
We were talking about Flounders a little bit.
Yeah.
And not too much more to say because there's not a whole lot to say at all. But if you recall, the end of the Under the Sea song, Flounder comes and tells Ariel, whispers something in your ear that the audience doesn't hear because the music's going on. And that's where she vanishes
Right.
at the end of the song. In this one, that doesn't happen. And so when Sebastian
gone, yeah.
turns, she's just gone. Like, oh wow, Ariel's just a freaking
She
jerk.
disappeared.
She's just a freaking bad
Yeah.
person.
Just leaves, especially to which I don't know if I didn't really like this is when she started singing in there. She was doing the what I don't know musical term, but where she's like singing underneath it. She was just singing.
She
and
was
then
into
she just
it.
leaves. Why was she? Why did she?
Yeah,
She had to.
So that, again, that makes it feel well, yes, but the fact that she leaves makes her feel like even more of a jerk because in the original, in the animated one, I get the sense that Ariel was a little she's not airheaded, but she's very impulsive. She she doesn't really think about the consequences of her action. Well, that's obvious. That's the whole
That's the movie.
But yes, the movie. But when Flounder comes and gets her, she forgets this musical thing's even happening, right? She is so distracted by Flounder. So removing that, I think, was a mistake, right? Like, why remove it? Also, like, it's like one of those weird choices.
Yeah.
To be honest,
Like-
I never even realized that Flounder does that in the original. I didn't know that until right now.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh man, for some reason I love that little part because it gives Flounder like he's in on it, right?
Right.
Like he's. I don't know. It just gives him just a little bit of a personality.
If I'm being honest, I've never liked Flounder. You were bringing up Flounder, and one thing is that you were talking about the Flounder in the original. You said it's almost like he's in love with her. In the stage show, he actually is. That's real. He actually sings a solo love song.
Yeah.
But I think Flounder is hideous in this movie, and I think he's hideous in the original as well. I think he's
he's
he's an
cute.
awful
He's like a cuter.
monstrosity.
I mean, he is just as much. It's just as legit for him to be in love with Ariel than a human. She's half she's half of a fish. So I guess he's right. Like what they equally have the same justification.
I don't want to go down this.
No, you're right though. They have the right to be equally attractive.
I don't want to talk about.
It's just like that skit on SNL, the centaur skit.
I know the centaurs. Are you attracted to other horses, or?
But let's say you saw a horse where you could only see it from the behind, and you wouldn't know if it was a centaur or a horse. Would you be attracted then?
Yeah. So if Eric saw just a fishtail What are you being connected to?
God, I love that fish app.
Into the little...
Also, maybe this is something that was in the animated, but I don't remember. But they specified the ages in this, and that's all, like, wait a second. She's 16 and he's 21.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Why did they say that? Why did they have
It's
to
a
do
weird
that?
thing to say, but also if it was in the is it the 1800s? I mean,
Yeah, it's obviously back then
very
it was
different
more.
time.
That's fine, but
I don't think we
you didn't
need
have
to
to say it. You didn't have to say that. Why did you say that?
You don't say that.
You didn't. Yeah, you didn't have to do the oral. The movie would have been fine without the oral.
Yeah, but it's like those things. It's like, why did you add that? No one was asking for.
Yeah.
Like, I
Speaking
don't know,
of why
it's
did
like
you
they're-
add that?
Ooh,
in
let's do it.
the Poor Unfortunate Souls, which by the way, I thought Melissa McCarthy was great. I was
Yeah, I thought
I
she
was
definitely
not looking
another
forward
thing I
to her
liked about
casting.
this.
I didn't think that was going to be good casting, but I thought she was perfect. But
Yeah.
they changed the spell so that they add a clause where she can't remember.
Yeah.
Remember?
What does that?
Well, no,
what-
I don't know.
When does that come
I
into
knew
play?
this is where you were going with this. I knew exactly what you were saying when you said that, because that's my biggest, like, why? But she
Yeah.
doesn't amend the clause. She cheats, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but it's just why not just make the part of?
I'm just saying, how does that
I don't know.
does that change the story?
How does it matter?
I don't
So
know.
the only thing I could think of is that it gives more like a sense of what Sebastian and Scuttle and Flounder have to do. Like, I don't know, because it doesn't make.
But then she
or
remembers
if-
very quickly, and then it's a plot.
Well, no, but it's also weird because there's the scene where Sebastian's like telling her, she's like the first morning, she's like, "Don't you remember? You have to kiss him after 3 days," and she's just like blankly staring as if she can't hear him or
Right.
something.
I'm-
It's like the spell is so like she can't even recognize when someone is telling her.
Yeah, I was
Like,
flabbergasted by that entire choice, and then also the Shaun that scene. Like, okay, on one thing is like, yeah, Matt, as you were saying, if Ursula can just cheat, oops,
Yeah.
you can't breathe air.
I know.
Yeah. I didn't mention anything about that. You still your internal biology is still exactly the same. You just happen
Right.
to have legs
You
now.
have legs.
Yeah.
So it really is stupid.
Yes.
Just on all levels, and I don't know just why it because also in my opinion it does kind of remove agency from Ariel, because what does she think she's doing? Like, what is going
Well,
through her head?
maybe-
Like,
Part of me is wondering if that's why they thought they needed to add it, because it felt like, oh, she's just trying to get the kiss for the sake of the kiss and it's not authentic. So if we make her forget, so that way when she kisses him, it wasn't like she was just doing it for that reason.
but she's already in love with him. It's not like it would be
I don't know.
inauthentic.
Right.
Well, yeah, I agree, but I'm just
She
trying to
already
think of
wants
why
to
they
kiss
would
him.
have. I don't know
The
why.
goal is to get,
I'm just trying to come up
the
with a
goal is to
reason
get him
why.
to fall in love with her. So it makes
Right.
even less
Yeah.
sense.
I don't
Yes,
know. I don't know.
I was.
It just confuses things. I'm not, again,
yes.
like it's what happens when you think about something too hard. I guess I don't. That's not even the right way to put it, but it's like you're trying to solve problems that aren't really problems. When you're like, obviously the animated 90-minute 89 film, it's not like a testament to plot or watertight plotting or anything like that. But that
Oh,
was
nice
never
pun.
why people like those films. That's not like why those stand up, and that's not the charm or the appeal of those. And obviously there's little things here and there that you could poke holes in, but yeah, those are fairy tales. That's kind of the fun. You don't need to like somehow have to answer everything scientifically. I don't know. It just feels very boardroomy.
Yes.
Right. It
Yes,
feels
it
like
does.
they kind of discussed this in a
Yeah.
boardroom
It's
and like
overwritten.
had to come up with a committee solution to like, well, what if she like kind of forgets things, and then I don't know. Just didn't. I don't know. I didn't really like that either.
Yeah.
I will say maybe it's tied to that, but I thought they did a good job of portraying Ariel. Well, I just thought actually Halle Berry was fantastic. I thought she was actually really
Yeah,
great
she
in
was really
this.
good.
But in her portrayal of Ariel, not just being like a teenage dumb love-struck girl who just wants a guy. Like, I think they did a really good job of portraying her as someone who's obviously not infatuated, but like drawn to this person specifically, but it being so much more than that. That it's not just about Eric; it's about the greater world at large, and that part of why she wants to be with Eric is because that's a representation of her wanting to be free and wanting to explore this other world and see new things. Yeah. And I think they did a good job of like, you know, portraying it, or I don't know, the writing or just the visuals of her feeling more mature. I don't know if that's the right word.
I agree with what you're saying to an extent, because you're saying that they do a good job of making it not all about the guy. But I think you're addressing I think you're addressing a criticism that I never agreed with in the first place. Is that in the original movie she's doing it for a guy. She's changing for a guy. I feel like what you're saying is positive in this movie is still strong in the original, because part of your world, the song "Part of Your World," which is very near and dear to my heart. I love that song. It's the ultimate I want song. Is sung before she even sees Eric. I think that musical theme is the theme for the entire movie. It's the emotional musical theme, and I don't think that. I think Eric is what is the tipping point. I think it's what
it's kind of the
catalyst. She's like, okay, all right, I that's good enough reason for me. Now I'm going. You know, I think so. Yeah, I don't know. I think they did a good job in this one.
And maybe it's just something I wasn't actively thinking. I haven't seen the animated.
Yeah, and I don't blame you for that, because I see that criticism and written in think pieces over and over again, and it's just such a it's such a shallow reading again.
Yeah, just very rote.
I'm tired of that. It's like the Belle has Stockholm syndrome, and it's no, because she's putting Beast in his place for like it's not. Yeah.
No, I very much agree. Like I agree with your reading of the original, but I think they expanded on those things in the right way in this one. And in addition to her wanting to already be part of that world, I felt like the Eric love in this one was even stronger. She sees that he's also a collector, right? When she
that scene was I like that scene actually a lot.
There's those good scenes that makes me feel like the relationship is more genuine, even if in the original maybe like you could throw arguments that like whatever.
And see, what you just mentioned is a good example of the reasons why I do think this is one of the stronger ones. It's like, what are they adding? What new take? In that case, it's character development, and it's strengthening that relationship. It's making it not seem as superficial. And I can imagine that you haven't seen the original in a long time. It's easy to kind of misremember certain things like that. So, but when they go out of their way to strengthen those things, that's good. That's points for the movie. Good job. That's what a reimagining, a remake should do. Right?
Yeah, it should.
It's one of the things.
But as we.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. But on the other hand, we've also mentioned things where they've added that are quite confusing and weird and bad.
Yeah.
Right. And I think when ultimately we go back to our original cynical take, it's just like, well, Disney's got this factory assembly line set up, and they're gonna make it no matter what. You're gonna have good calls and you're going to have bad calls, and it's going to depend on your artistic team. And I think that this one had one of the better artistic teams working on it, and but it's still the original concept. If it's make this so we can make money, then that's never a good. It's different than somebody says, I really have an interesting take on the Little Mermaid, and I really want to do this take on it. Not it's going to happen anyway, so let's do the best job we can.
So I part of it too is like, and this is, I'm sure, discussion we've had in some form or another on previous episodes, but I'm trying to kind of put my head in my place in the headspace of just judging this film on its own.
It's hard to do,
and it's impossible to do for us, right? But let's say you're a 12-year-old kid who, for whatever reason, has never seen, heard of, or knows about the animated version. And you just watch this, I think that would be great, right? That's cool. That's a good thing. I think this is a good version of that. And so, if you were in that case and you were just able to judge this film on its own, yes, like we have all said, I think generally speaking, there's a good film. There's a But that's not what the like. And this is where it's like this weird Disney double thing that you have to be in for any of this to make sense. You have to have a undying nostalgic love for everything that you liked as a kid, and yet have a goldfish's memory and forget anything that you ever loved so that they could remake it again and have it like, right? Like, what do they want us to do? Do they want us to like these classics? Because if that's the case, then they're there. We can watch them. We're there. Go watch them. They're there. They're good. Or do they want us to not like the classics and forget the classics so that when they come out with new movies, quote unquote new movies, but the same story as a new movie, we could like this more? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, what do they even want? And this is what you were maybe saying, Ryan, like, and shoot, like, I don't even think they know. No one knows why this is happening.
I think it's because...
Well, other than money,
no, I think
whatever,
it's because we were kids when the original came out, and now we're old enough to have kids who are the same age as we were when the original came out, so they know that we're going to take the kids because we have fond memories and nostalgia of the original, and the kids will grow up watching this version, and then this will be that. Yeah.
I guess. But I'm just saying, is that...
They make more money by having it in theaters and making a new version than just like hoping that. I think so. Then
they make
like,
more money? Well, so this is a question I had. Because they had to, this cost what, 150, 200 million? I don't know, however, plus marketing. Like, this is a hundreds of $1 million endeavor for them to make something like The Little Mermaid or The Lion King or The Beauty and the Beast. How much money would it really cost them for them to just re-release the animated movie in theaters and market it and publicize it?
That's a really good point.
And market it as like a HD, like they've gone through and polished the cells
whatever,
or something, right? To make it feel new and fresh, and it will. I mean, make it look good, right? Like polish it up, whatever magical techniques they can do to do that.
Yeah.
And re-release it. I would go see it. I would go see
it, and that's what I'm saying. And the cost to profit ratio seems
way higher,
completely way higher, right? Like than something like this, which is a risk too, right? This is obviously a huge risk. Not all of these have been huge money makers, but the ones that are, you know, they do. But this film is, in general, these films are so banking on you, like they're shot for shot. Some of this stuff is line for line and shot for shot. The animated movie. It's an element that cannot exist in isolation and be judged on its own in isolation because it wasn't created that way or with that intent. They created these scenes so that we would recognize that it's the same shot. And like when she bursts from the wave on the rock, as much as that's an iconic thing from the animated thing, part of me is like, no, I just want to, you're just reminding me of the animated movie that I want to go see the animated movie now. Like, and this is kind of what we're talking about with like Jungle Book and Cruella, and like those are different things. You're at least banking on the nostalgia in terms of the pure aesthetic appeal. Like, oh, we know those characters and we know this world, so that hooks us. But oh, it's a different story. Oh, you have a different message. Oh, there's different things going on. This is new. Like, to me, that is worth the risk. That justifies putting this out. And as much as I do think this is a good film, blah, 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 I still cannot understand it. I still don't understand what is going on. What, like, and even like from a very cynical money's only perspective, it doesn't make sense to me compared to other options. I don't know. It's just a weird thing.
I don't know. I'm at the point where I don't really care anymore. Like I've given up trying to understand. Yeah. It's just what's happening, I guess.
And that's what I mean. It's just like it's just this thing is happening. We all just have to accept it. Even the people doing it have no control. Like why is it? What someone doesn't? It doesn't have to. No, it does. Why? Why does it have to? I don't know. That's just what's happening.
Yeah.
I don't know. But at least, I mean, if they were all this quality, I think I would probably be less cynical about it too. You know, it would be like, okay, well, it was still an entertaining viewing and stuff. Unfortunately, they're not all like this, right?
Right, and that's why I think the cover song analogy is a good analogy.
Oh yeah, I really like that analogy. Yeah. And it's interesting too because, like, I'm trying to think some cover songs are so good that you don't even know they're covers. Right. And maybe that's what they're going for, right? Like, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like, I Fought the Law and the Law Won by The Clash, right? That's a cover. I didn't know that was a cover for ages, right? No one knows that's a cover. Everyone just knows that song, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they're going for. Like, oh, I didn't know. But in those cases, like you said, Matt, they are adding something. That the Clash's version of that song, they are adding something to that song. They're putting their take on it. There's a different element there. It's not just let's try to duplicate, the original and as close as possible.
Right. And I don't think that they've gotten there yet. I think the Jungle Book is the closest they've come. But even then, if your litmus test is would I ever watch this over the original, my answer to that one is maybe. And that's as close as they've gotten so far for me, at least. Maybe they will get there. I mean, they're gonna run out, and then they're gonna start. They're gonna have to start remaking the weird ones. Are we gonna get a live action Great Mouse Detective? Are we gonna get a live action Home on the Range? Oh!
I've never seen that.
Are we gonna get a live action Black Cauldron?
Ooh, see, now I would if they did that series. That
right, I don't
want a live. I don't want a live. Yeah, exactly. That makes sense. And I don't necessarily want an adaptation of the specific. Right. I just want an adaptation of that book.
Right, because Black Cauldron's the second book, I think, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But no, yeah, exactly. What's in the work? I know they're doing a Hercules, right? Isn't that?
All right, let me pull up the Wikipedia. All right.
I heard Moana. They're doing a live action Moana, which came out 7 years ago, and they're already remaking.
Okay, May 2026. There are 14 more in the works. Let's see. Snow White. There's enough live action Snow Whites.
There's a ton.
Oh no, my browser froze.
I mean, at a certain point, some of these are so just like classic fairy tales. Are they? I mean, I guess they are going to be specifically the imagery from the animated. They are going Disney to be replicating. Version. So it is a remake, but it's just like all of these are just fairy tales. You can make a version of the Little Mermaid that doesn't have to be a remake of the Disney animated Little Mermaid.
So that's the next one, and then also next year is the Lion King, Mufasa: The Lion King. So it's a prequel, maybe? Yeah, it's a prequel. That's what it is. Lilo and Stitch, Moana, Hercules, Hunchback, Robin Hood, a sequel to the live action Aladdin, which stars the the prince who gets bitten by the tiger at the beginning is the main character.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I actually kind of like that guy.
Sword in the Stone, Bambi.
I'm dreading the Bambi one.
Yeah,
it's gonna be like
Sword in the Stone, though. I could see that one being.
I mean,
fun.
I guess, but I don't really think Sword in the Stone is a good movie.
No, but I think that's maybe
it's like 3 episodes of a TV show.
Yeah, it does kind of feel that way, but that's why maybe the movie could be kind of interesting. Yeah. If they just take the feel and the flavor of the content as opposed to let's read the script and have the character say the lines.
No, you know what? Actually, I think that one does have potential because I think that one would lend itself well to a very drastically rewritten story.
Yes, if they are willing, to do that, which I want. Right. Yes, I'm more. Even if they fail largely, I'm kind of more. They fail hugely.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Adverb there, but you know what I'm saying. Like, I would almost rather that. It's like, oh, that's what I mean. It's like I get if you don't like Cruella, that's totally fine. But I think that's why that worked so well for me. Is like, yes,
it's a new story.
They did something. It's a new story.
Yeah, and I think that if there's less on the line, I mean, I don't know anybody who's like a rabid Sword in the Stone fan, like not in the way that people are really into the classics, So if they did something drastic and they took some risks and it didn't pay off, well, okay, who cares? It's Sword in the Stone, exactly. That's what I want to see. Yeah, take it. Give us Atlantis or Treasure Planet or I don't know.
I mean, the other thing too is that we're just so we don't even. I mean, we do, but question that they just these things have to be remade. Why? Why do they have to be remade? I understand that. I guess it's easier than writing a new thing because you don't have to come up with a new story, sure, but I don't know. There's so many stories in human history in the world. Can you really not find other stories that you can just adapt? Here's an idea. Shakespeare wrote 40-something odd plays. What if you just Disney, there you go. There's your next 40 films. Do the Shakespeare. Like, right? That's something. That's, like, again, you don't have to write the story. You don't have to come up with characters. It's the same thing as these adaptations you're doing of your old things, but at least there's something new there. There's something that we could, I don't know, I feel like, get something out of that is different.
Well, I guess they
I don't
technically
know.
have already done that, right? Isn't Lion King just
Lion
Hamlet
King.
anyway?
And
Well, yeah,
Lion
there's a
King,
few,
Hamlet,
yeah,
Lion King 2 is Romeo and Juliet.
Well, there you go. So, I guess in some ways, yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, right? That, or I don't know, whatever.
What about this, John? What about Bedknobs and Broomsticks? I don't know if anyone's thought of that yet.
Yes.
Oh, hey,
Live
there you
action
go. There's a
remake of Bedknobs and Broomsticks.
Yeah, okay. I think we might be on
And
to
actually,
something.
technically, they already tried that. They did it with Pete's Dragon. And I didn't, I couldn't.
Oh, you're
Is that
right.
after Bedknobs
I've
and
heard,
Broomsticks? Oh, I see what you.
they
Yeah,
remade Pete's
yeah.
Dragon, which was
Jeez.
live action and animated, and
I never saw.
I
never
started
saw.
watching it and I fell
about
asleep about 15 minutes into it. But I have heard
I
that
don't know.
from some people that one's pretty good, but it didn't hold my interest.
Yeah.
So
I'd never seen it, so maybe I'll have to go check that out.
Yeah.
Was that like the first, like before the actual
was
era?
very early
no, I don't
on.
think so. I think we were already
It was after like
we
Cinderella.
were already into that era.
Yeah, Cinderella was
true.
the first, I think.
Cinderella was one of their.
Alice,
Although it is
Alice
funny
was what
'cause-
started it.
Oh, Alice. Yeah, but I don't. Was that kind of what's
Yeah.
considered? Like, I kind of feel like that one is different than the rest
I
of them.
think I
No?
It is
I think that's
pretty different.
but I would put it from the same conveyor belt. More so than I more
I just.
more so,
I mean, I never saw it.
oh, well, that's good.
Well, yeah, I heard it's not great. I just mean that it's not as specific. It doesn't feel as strictly beholden to the animated, specifically Disney animated version of Alice in Wonderland. It seems like they're doing.
No, that's
more-
true. It's actually a sequel.
Okay, well, there
That's
you go.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also, they did Wizard of Oz. I mean, it wasn't Disney, but I think
Right.
there was an era where people were
Yeah.
going back to these old.
Well,
classics.
what's actually funny is, as much as kind of saying Cruella and how it's the outlier in all of these, I don't know if it was the, but what was the Glenn Close?
Oh yeah,
101 Dalmatians from
True.
the aughts or
Yeah.
90s? Like, that was well before this
was there
era,
two of
right?
those?
Yeah, I think they
They
made
did,
two
yeah.
of them even, yeah.
Yeah. So they've been
I
doing
don't
this
know.
for a while, I suppose.
Yeah, it's not new, but it's just now it's
Yeah.
like that
it's the
is
standard now.
yeah,
This is what
obviously
they're doing.
the only
Yeah.
thing they're doing.
Now it's just aggressively terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen that. I don't think I've seen.
I
Yeah,
saw it in
101
theaters, but
I've
I
seen the
don't
first
remember
one.
it at all. I just remember that they turned the piano playing guy into a video game designer, and instead
Okay.
of being like, I gotta figure out what to write the song, he's like, I can't come up with a villain for my new video game that I'm programming all by myself, and then the villain is Cruella. That's how that one ends. That's the only thing I remember about that movie. I don't like 101 Dalmatians in really any form except for the Cruella movie.
Yeah.
Matt, it looks like the game he makes ends up looking like in Jury Duty. Do you remember the video the attorney shows?
Oh my
where it's
god!
like
Oh,
I was laughing pretty hard at that.
oh my god!
Sean, it's like old like PS1. In court trials they'll have they'll digitally animate a recreation of the
Yeah,
crime.
yeah.
But one of
Yeah.
the attorneys has one where it's like a PS1, and like the lines are
Well,
skewing, and the characters bugging out and flipping around. It's so
Meg
funny.
said it looked like it was made in Gary's mod,
Yeah, that's a
and
good
it probably
description.
actually
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, that was,
Anyway.
I don't know. I don't know anything else to say about this movie. It's another.
Yeah, I
It's
don't know.
another
Is there
oh,
live
anything
action.
else?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I have one final note that just like ended the movie on like such an awkward note for me, where they're waving goodbye. Ariel and Eric get on a ship to sail the seven seas and explore the world, and they're waving goodbye to all the sea creatures. Like, we live on the
Yeah,
ocean. What do you mean? It's not like we're never gonna see you again. Like,
Yeah,
what?
we go wherever we want. Also, it was funny in that scene. I know there's the big actual boat in the distance, but at first I didn't see it or something. So it's just like
On a
them
little
getting
tiny-
on that little rowboat. And they're like, bye,
Do you guys
go
have
have
food?
an adventure on the
Nope.
seas. I was
Well,
like,
they're
wait,
dead.
they're gonna die.
As
And
it,
Triton's like, I can't rescue them or ever see them again.
Well,
Yeah.
there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Live action Little Mermaid.
yeah,
It's
that's the Little
just
Mermaid.
another one. Here we go. It's got some
It's
some
Yeah.
good stuff going
If-
for
if-
it, but you know.
Yeah, it definitely is in the top tier of these remakes, and on its own, I think it was a pretty good film. I don't know. It's in a
It's
concept that doesn't
it's
make
in,
any sense.
It's in the
to
top
me.
tier of a type of movie that is in the bottom tier of types of movies.
Yeah, I just maybe there'll be one that comes along that you said it earlier, Chewy. There's a cap. There's like a flat cap on how good these can ever be, and I just don't know how they're ever gonna break free of that cap.
Yeah, maybe they will.
Like, and maybe they will. Maybe they will. So
I hope they do, to be honest.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I hope movies are good and
Yeah.
They aren't though. Movies are terrible.
yeah, movies are terrible. Yeah. Well, there you go, Little Mermaid.
All right. Well, okay. We don't have any email this time around because we answered quite a meaty email in the last episode.
Yes.
So if you haven't listened to our review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, that one should have just come out. Give it a listen, and if you want to participate in the discourse, email us at yumchunks@gmail.com. Tell us why we're wrong.
Rank the Disney live action
Yeah.
remakes.
Which one's your favorite or least favorite? Or what?
Yeah. Rank what type of water fish can be in. Fresh or salt? Give us your
Ooh,
rankings.
which half of the mermaid do you like the most? The human half or the fish half?
Yeah, we may not read that one.
Oh, I'm gonna
on
read
air,
it.
But
I'm gonna do it. All right.
Next, coming up though, we mentioned last episode, but plenty of stuff coming down the chute this summer. Next episode gonna be
Spider
some
Town.
Spiders. Yeah,
All right.
man. There's a colorful, amazing. I don't want to. I guess we can't talk about it
Spoilers
yet.
for your
Ugh.
opinion. I haven't seen it yet, so I don't want to know
know.
your opinion.
I thought it was colorful. That's my.
That's
opinion.
not opinion. It's a fact. It's colorful.
All right.
Oh,
Well,
yep.
I've yet to see
Anyways.
it. I will see it soon, and stay tuned for that.
Yep.
That will probably be our next episode.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, everyone. I got to go back to Zelda. I got things to cook. I got to just really hone this seafood recipe.
All right. Oh, I have some
Zelda.
soup to eat. I think I have clam chowder. All right. That's what's gonna happen. That's what's gonna happen. All right. And I don't have fricassee. I don't have the time or the energy to make that. All right. Okay. Goodbye, everyone.
It's because you're not a French
Oh
chef.
yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
French
Okay. Some Little Mermaid joke to end the episode. There you go. Goodbye.
This has been
After the credits.
a YumChunks podcast.
Yum